A big free agent signing happened, and it is devastating if you're a fan of the New Orleans Saints. Here's why: because the New York Giants have added a cornerback. The bad news is they've added Paulson Adebo. It was reported about 45 minutes before this show started that Paulson Adebo has signed a contract with the New York Giants. His time with the New Orleans Saints is officially done. That's huge for a number of reasons. One, you now have a massive hole at the cornerback position. Right now, on your roster, in terms of guys you know that are going to be there, you have Alontae Taylor, who is a very good player. I like Alontae Taylor. He can play outside corner. He can play in the nickel. He's played a little bit of safety. He can do whatever you need him to do. Then you have Kool-Aid McKinstry. Look, Jaquincy McKinstry was the second-round pick out of Alabama last year. Wound up playing a decent amount. Showed flashes. Looked like a rookie at times. Looked really good at times. And you have Rico Payton. Those are the three guys right now in your Saints cornerback room that you know for sure are going to be there next year. At least at the moment. Things could always change. This leaves a massive hole at corner. And it's even bigger because you already have a big hole at safety. We've talked about that a number of times. The safety position being such a big hole for the Saints that maybe you even go there round one depending on who falls. That's something that's been kicked around. But do the Saints have to go corner now in round one? I mean, I know everyone wants them to go D-line, but they've shored up that position. We'll get into that a little bit later. And they could go Tyler Warren if they wanted to do like a best player available. You need an edge rusher. Look, Mykel Williams might be there. Jalen Carter might be there. These are guys that have all been linked to the Saints. Garrett Podell of CBS Sports earlier today, now this was before the Paulson Adebo news, put out a mock draft, and at number 9 overall, he had the Saints taking Georgia edge rusher Jalen Walker, who I just mentioned. And that was before the Adebo news, but the bigger point in his mock draft is at 9 overall, Michigan cornerback Will Johnson was still on the board. He had the Saints passing up on him, taking the edge rusher out of Georgia. He had Will Johnson, for what it's worth, going 11 overall to the San Francisco 49ers. 3 years at Michigan. Will Johnson, 68 total tackles, 9 interceptions. He was a really good corner. He's also 6'2", around 200 pounds, so he has the ability to move around a little bit. I just talked about the flexibility and versatility of a guy like Alontae Taylor. Will Johnson brings something similar to you in those regards. If you don't get a corner early in this draft, rounds 1 or 2, you may have to dip into free agency a little bit. The problem with doing that is that there's not a ton of young guys, and the guys that are out there are going to be very high priced. The name to watch is Charvarius Ward from the 49ers, which he is expected to move on from the 49ers, which is why Garrett Podell had the 49ers selecting Will Johnson in the first round. They'll have a hole at corner. Charvarius Ward, really good player. He's 29 years old. He'll be 30 years old by the time the season starts. He made $13.5 million with the San Francisco 49ers on average under his last contract. Now, you just freed up a little bit of cap space. You still have some work to do if you're the Saints. Can you sign a Charvarius Ward? He's a 7-year vet in the NFL. He's been in a number of big games. He's played in Super Bowls with the 49ers. He's had a lot of success. Outside of him, though, you got Jonathan Jones. He'll be 32 by the time the season starts. Byron Murphy. He's 27. He made about $8.5 million with the Vikings. He's been up and down. Jeff Okuda's been a disappointment. Former first-round pick of the Lions. Then he was with the Texans. He's only 26, and that's a guy that had a big contract because he was on a first-round deal. What would you pay him? Kendall Fuller's 30 years old now. Stephon Gilmore is 34. You get the point. Dante Jackson's out there, but he'll be almost 30 years old. Pittsburgh might re-sign him anyways. You have a huge hole at corner and no immediate way to solve that problem other than the NFL draft. So if Will Johnson's there at 9 overall, if you're the New Orleans Saints, you might be forced to take him at this point. You could go safety. Malachi Starks will be there, but this is kind of a deep safety class. It's not really as deep as far as pure outside corner goes in this draft. I mean, you have Will Johnson, but outside of him, it's kind of a decent drop-off. Like, look, if you pull up PFF, I mean, Travis Hunter's obviously your number one corner, but Travis Hunter's going to go somewhere in the top 3. No way will he be there at 9 when you're picking. If Travis Hunter, Jedi Barron is a guy that's been mocked to you a little bit. He would be a surprise pick at 9 overall. Jedi Barron, really good player. Had some success at Texas. Do you grab him at 9 overall? You almost may have to reach for a guy. Because I like Jedi Barron, but if you would have told me last week, hey, the Saints took him in round 1, I'd have been like, well, you know, he's a good player. Could he have been there in round 2? I don't know. If Johnson and Hunter are gone, you're going to have to seriously look at a guy like Jedi Barron. Look, he had a bunch of big-time moments at Texas. That was a top 5 defense in college football a year ago. You know he can play the outside corner. He was shut down at times at Texas. Trey Amos from Ole Miss. He's 40th on the PFF big board. Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. He's a guy that will maybe be there in round 2. He was pretty productive in college. He had an excellent NFL combine. He was one of the top winners of the combine, pretty much regardless of who you ask. But can you really wait in the second round to grab a Hairston, to grab a Trey Amos? Will Johnson, I would be perfectly okay with at 9. You may have to reach for a Jedi Barron. If not, how aggressive are you in free agency before the draft? Because you know you have a big hole. You're going to have to sign somebody else regardless. Because you can't just go into the season with whatever rookie corner you draft, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Alontae Taylor, and Rico Payton. You're going to have to sign somebody anyways. What type of caliber of guy are you going to sign? That'll depend on what you do in the NFL draft. We talked about them needing everything, but all of a sudden, corner goes to, if not the top of the list, one of the top 3 places to look for the New Orleans Saints in this NFL draft. Again, I'd be okay with it, but it makes a bad situation worse, right, if you're the New Orleans Saints. Because what do we talk about all the time? Well, the good news for the New Orleans Saints is it's going to be hard to mess this draft pick up as long as you hit on the player you draft because they need everything. The bad news is the New Orleans Saints need everything. It just depends on what you prioritize the most. That secondary group, corner and safety, is looking awfully thin. Just listed off the corners in your room. At safety right now, you have Tyrann Mathieu. You have Jordan Howden. What do you do with Will Harris? Can you re-sign him? Is he going to sign somewhere else? The room's thin on both levels. Now, you can move Tyrann around a little bit. You can move Alontae Taylor around a little bit, but you don't really have the bodies to do that right now. It's kind of those guys and everybody else. Very little depth there at that position. You're going to have to address that need early in the NFL draft. Honestly, probably in one of the first 2 picks. Do the Saints reach on a guy like Jedi Barron, or do they maybe roll the dice and grab a corner in the second round? Whether it's Maxwell Hairston, Trey Amos, will they be there when the Saints pick in the mid-40s? We'll find out, but this certainly made the Saints draft situation a whole lot worse because now they have, well, frankly, just another position to think about on top of a growing list of gaping holes on this team that you have to have filled before the season starts.
Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.